Across many organizations today, it seems there is too much management and too little leadership. In other words, there is over-management and little leadership. Business world today is affected by the twin challenges of complexity and change. These two cannot be separated. They occur concurrently. They go hand in hand. It's important to understand what is complexity and what is change. But change we're all familiar with. But let me briefly explain to you as to what I mean by complexity. We say something is complex because it has four key factors. Complexity has diversity, first factor. The second factor is connectedness. The third factor, interdependence. And the fourth factor, adaptation. In any business environment, you can see a population of diverse elements or entities. All of these are somehow connected. Each element or entity displays certain type of behavior or action. These seem to be interdependent, and these together exhibit some sort of adaptation. Let me clarify that with a simple example. Remember, diversity, connectedness, interdependence, adaptation. Take, for example, the recent financial crisis that started in 2008 and more or less ended in 2010. During that crisis, the entire financial industry was shaken. It went on to affect other industries as well. In the finance industry, there are a number of diverse elements or entities: banks, insurance companies, investment companies, stockbroking companies, credit card companies, and so on and so forth. Even though each one is different, each of these is somehow connected to one another. If one was affected, it would go on to affect other companies within the industry. Now, these are interdependent. The success or the failure of one may somehow go on to affect the others. And these are somehow prone to adaptation. Now, that's what happened in the finance industry. During the crisis, many companies went bankrupt. Some companies disappeared, or some were bought by other companies. It resulted in some sort of financial or some sort of consolidation within the industry. Dealing with complexity requires sound management skills. That's one side of the reality. The other side is about change. Now, dealing with change or managing change is all about leadership. It's about moving an organization from point A to point B, or from the current state to a desired state. Dealing with change is about creating top-down alignment. In other words, moving both the top management and the bottom end of the organizational hierarchy together towards an idealized goal, towards the future. It's about motivating employees. It's about stimulating the workforce to achieve higher levels of organizational excellence. It's about being futuristic. Therefore, both managing complexity and leading change go hand in hand. We're going to look a bit more in detail as to what management is about. In other words, what managers do, and what leadership is about, and what leaders do. We're going to look at managerial functions and leadership competencies. But before that, let me give you some statistical information about how leadership at the top level has been affected in the recent past. 1/3 of Fortune CEOs nowadays last less than 3 years in the job. The overall failure rate of CEOs today is as high as 75%. CEOs last roughly 7.6 years on a global average. This is down from 9.5 years in 1995. So the lifespan of CEO has come down. A CEO hired today is more likely to be fired much earlier than the one fired in 1980. Now, moving on. As I said a short while ago about management and leadership, dealing with complexity requires sound managerial skills. Managers perform a number of functions, very vital and very crucial. These functions are planning, organizing, coordinating, controlling, budgeting, and decision making. Let me briefly summarize what each function consists of. Planning is about forecasting future events and determining the most effective activities for the company. Organizing, it refers to the way in which an organizational structure is established and how authority and responsibility are given to managers. It's also known as delegation. Coordinating. This is about activities designed to create a relationship among all the organizational efforts to accomplish a common goal. Under coordination or coordinating function, I would also include effective communication, management behaviors, and use of rewards to bring different functions or different business units together to attain a common organizational goal or objective. The fourth managerial function, controlling. The word controlling has a negative connotation, but controlling function is crucial to ensure that the management does not deviate from pre-established or accepted norms or procedures or processes. How to attain controlling function, how to ensure that the organization does not deviate much from accepted norms. This can be done by establishing clear standards at the outset, measuring performance of the workforce, comparing performance against established standards, evaluating results, taking action if there is any deviation. The fourth key function, managerial function, is budgeting. Budgeting is not just about making expenditure and revenue plans. Budgeting is a crucial managerial function. It can ensure accountability for performance. Sound budgeting also ensures control, that the company does not overspend or underspend on critical activities. Budgeting is useful for evaluating projects deserving investment or divesting investment, meaning projects that promise better prospects can be financed, and projects showing bleak prospects can be divested from the portfolio. Therefore, budgeting is a crucial function. Another key managerial function is decision making. Defining the problem. Decision making starts with that. Clearly defining what the problem is, and then classifying whether the problem is simple or complex. Simple problems can be addressed with pre-established solutions, whereas complex problems require defining boundary conditions and then figuring out the right solution and converting decision into action, and finally obtaining feedback just to make sure or ensure that the right decision has been taken. These together, these key managerial functions are absolutely crucial for dealing with complexity in the business environment. Now, these managerial functions have to be performed within the demands, constraints, and choices that are placed upon managers. There are demands on managers to perform, to demonstrate the right behaviors. There are constraints on managers, limitations, in other words. Limitations such as regulatory requirements, resource limitations, and so on and so forth. And finally, choices. Managers have to perform their functions within choices that are available to them regarding what type of job or task to be done, how they could be done, when they could be done. So dealing with complexity requires sound management or managerial skills or functions. On the other hand, leadership, very important function. What leaders do? Good leaders demonstrate certain exemplary competencies. Leadership is about achievement orientation. It's about demonstrating the desire to get things done, seeking ways to make improvements, creating small wins, moving the entire workforce towards accomplishing the goal. Lee Iacocca, the legendary CEO of Chrysler Corporation, did exactly that. He turned around Chrysler through his exemplary leadership. Even when the company wasn't doing well, he was always focused on creating small wins. His leadership was about achievement orientation. He would create a positive environment, saying things such as, well, there was a positive review from a Wall Street analyst, or he would suggest, we've made an improvement in this particular area, or we have received an accolade from a client, from a customer. So talking about or generating such positives created an achievement-oriented environment within Chrysler under his leadership. Fostering people. It's the capacity to develop people by fostering the right environment. SAS, an IT, a software company based in the US, SAS was voted as the best employer to work for by Fortune 500 in 2010. What's so special about SAS? The company offers a lot of benefits for its employees. It has a swimming pool, pool table. It even offers child creche for parents to take their children to work, and the kids would be looked after in the creche. It offers even medical facilities on site. These alone do not create the right environment for the employees. The CEO, Jim Goodnight, has gone even further. SAS is mindful of the fact that these facilities are superficial. Fostering environment is about creating strong work ethics. It's about generating goodwill among people. It's about engendering creativity within the organization. It's about creating intellectual stimulation in the workplace. It's about relationship. Now, these are the things that retain people in the organization. We talk about economies of scale. Now, economies of scale, it's not just about reducing cost or attaining cost leadership. Economies of scale is also about managing talent. Economies of scale can be achieved by boosting employee morale. Economies of scale can be achieved when people are creative and people come up with innovative solutions. Now, these are the things that SAS, the software company, has been doing for quite a few years now. As a result of that, the attrition rate in SAS is relatively low. In fact, it has the lowest attrition rate in the entire IT industry in America. Even though SAS pays its employees less than the average wage in the entire IT industry, its employees prefer to stay within the company. They are keen to show loyalty to the company that looks after them. Emotional leverage. When it comes to change, it's not uncommon to talk about the rational aspect of change, explaining to people why they have to change, why change has to be implemented, the financial benefits, why it's important to be competitive. So these reasons can be offered to employees in order to make them understand the logic of change. Even though people understand the rational side of the argument, but people may be resistant emotionally. I can understand when somebody comes to me and says, we are going through a tough phase now. We need to bring about certain changes in the tasks we do, in the job that we're doing. But emotionally I may feel different. Now, leadership is about tapping into the emotions of people. In my book, Leading Your Organization, I've written an entire chapter on this particular aspect of change. Dealing with change, not just rationally, but emotionally. France Telecom, a huge telecoms company in France, not so long ago, realized to its own cost and disadvantage of neglecting or ignoring the emotional side of change. More than 20 people had committed suicide in the company due to the changes in the competitive landscape in the telecoms industry. France Telecom decided to move into mobile telephony. The company was being beaten by nimbler, smarter rival telecoms company. It had to restructure. It had to relocate some of its employees in order to become more competitive. The jobs were changed, the responsibilities were changed, the tasks were changed. And many employees found such rapid changes too much to digest. Unfortunately, some of them had committed suicide because they were either directly or indirectly affected by these changes. Therefore, leadership is about is also about dealing with the emotional side of people. Shared learning, creating a learning organization. An organization where everyone learns, everyone contributes. Today, organizations do not compete in an economy. Organizations compete in what's popularly known as knowledge economy. There are no more workers, there are knowledge workers. Even a worker at the lowest level can possess a snippet of an idea or knowledge or some sort of insight that can be beneficial to the organization. Therefore, involving the entire workforce in decision making, in generating ideas, is crucial to make a difference in the market. Atlassian, an Australian company, it's not a software company, IT company. It symbolizes what shared learning is about. Employees spend a fifth of their working hours, or in other words, employees spend 20% of their working time on a pet idea, on a pet project, or they can work on a problem, or anything, any product or service, as long as it is related to company products or services. Every quarter, the employees meet, they get together, and they share their ideas. They tell the other team members what they are working on, what they have done. And what a way to share your ideas with the rest of your staff, what you have come up with, coming up with radical, innovative, creative, different solution to a problem. Atlassian, the company, calls it off days or FedEx days. Just as the FedEx company makes an overnight delivery, the employees are expected to share their ideas, to deliver their ideas to the rest of the organization. Shared learning. Vision. No leadership subject would be complete without vision. Great leaders are great visionaries. Without vision, change cannot take place. And no change can ever be meaningful without a vision. They both go hand in hand. Anita Roddick, the founder of Body Shop, embodies what visionary leadership is about. When Anita Roddick started her business Body Shop, there were many critics. Her vision was to combine both ethical principles and also profit making. She defied conventional thinking. Many critics had doubts. How could a company be profitable if its activities are geared or oriented towards ethical issues, social issues? But she turned Body Shop into a huge financial success. She addressed environmental and health problems. She addressed poverty in the third world. She was instrumental in making products made of non-polluting ingredients. And one of the things Anita Roddick did was to open Body Shop stores in poor neighborhoods to create employment. Through her vision, Anita Roddick made a difference, not just to her employees, but also to the consumers, to several poor neighborhoods which benefited from employment creation. She also played a meaningful role in the lives of many poor people who were the suppliers of many of the natural ingredients of which Body Shop products were made. Vision, a crucial leadership factor. Great leaders inspire confidence, not just in good times, but also in bad times. and Apple has done that. Under Steve Jobs, Apple has come back as a force to reckon with. Under Steve Jobs' CEO-ship, Apple has come up with such revolutionary products such as iPod, iPhone, iPads. It's not just about the products, it's what Steve Jobs has done. Despite being terminally ill, he is an inspiration to his workforce. Apple regularly pokes at conventional wisdom. It demonstrates courage to be unconventional in its thinking. Now, that's what innovation and creativity is about. Making people confident, inspiring people to think differently. It's about showing an uncanny ability to see hidden opportunities. It's about demonstrating laser beam focus to make perfect products. It requires tremendous amount of confidence to be out of the norm, to be different. And last but not the least, customer leadership. Great leadership is also about leading the customer to a level of excellence. Organizations endlessly talk about customer management. It's an old idea. How to serve people, how to handle a call, how to respond to a complaint, how to address a problem. Now, these aspects are concerned with customer management, whereas customer leadership is quite different. It's about delighting the customer. It's about personalizing service. Now, customer management is quite common, and that's what management textbooks talk about. That's what everyone is being taught, even in organizations. But customer leadership is something that is different. Customer management is about the how to do it, whereas customer leadership is about the why. It's about making people understand why they have to do something, why they have to help customers. It's about taking initiative. It's about being spontaneous. Zappos, an online retail company based in the US, demonstrates what customer leadership is about. Zappos, it's an interesting company, even though it's an online company. There are lots of things Zappos does unusually. In any company, in any shop, you go and make a purchase. You generally will have a 28 or 30-day returns policy. Zappos offers its customers a 365-day returns policy. What the company is stating is that you as a customer can buy a product with complete peace of mind. If you're not happy with it, you can return it anytime. 1 month later, 6 months later, 11 months later, you have a complete 12-month period. And what a way to assure the customer. Take your time, make up your mind. And the company pays the shipping costs to and fro. It's not just that. In many companies, call center workers have a pre-written script. They follow the script when they deal with customers. How to overcome an objection, how to handle a complaint, how to respond to a query. Zappos does not have any pre-written script. Employees are encouraged to be spontaneous, to be their own selves when they interact with customers on the telephone. telephone an unsexy gadget, but Zappos has turned this bland gadget, a telephone, into a strategic tool to build a relationship with customers. The idea is to help people. Not just that, Zappos pays tremendous importance to selecting and recruiting people. The company chooses people with a natural flair for customer service, people who really want to help customers, people who want to talk with people, people who would love to socialize with people over the telephone. Now that's the sort of strategy that has gone into selecting and recruiting the type of people that Zappos would like to have on board. And one more thing about Zappos. In any call center, call center workers are encouraged to be aware of the average handle time. It means that a call center worker is expected to spend X number of minutes with a customer on the telephone, because that allows the call center company to talk to as many customers as possible. The idea is based in economies of scale. It's based on economies of scale. It's embedded in it. But in Zappos, there's no such time as average handle time. Workers can spend as much time as they would like to. The whole idea behind it is to help the customer. Now that is customer leadership. Now what does it mean for organizational leadership? So far, I have talked about the trends. I have talked about managing complexity, leading change. I have talked about what managers do. In other words, the managerial functions, and what leaders do, the leadership competencies or leadership qualities. What does it mean? What does it mean to lead or to manage an organization in the 21st century? It means to be successful in managing and leading a corporation or a business or an organization today requires both management as well as leadership. Managing today involves many activities that are usually associated with leadership. Managers today ought to incorporate many leadership roles and responsibilities into their behavior. There is a very fine line that divides management and leadership. Managers ought to be leaders today in order to be successful in the 21st century. Thank you.